Hello everybody and welcome to another review. Today I'm going to review a Lithuanian 8-hour ration, which is the menu number 23. And the bag is pretty big. Here you can see it. It doesn't even fit the frame fully. I'm guessing that they're using the 24-hour ration bags for the 8-hour rations as well, and that's why it's so big. This ration is mostly made out of British components, so Lithuania does not make their own rations anymore. They used to. I think it's the same with Estonia and possibly also Latvia, but they're using the English components now. So this is full of components from England, but we can see. And finally, the ration is pretty calorific. The ration is still in date. The best before date is March 2025, and it's produced the 30th of March 2023. So everything in this ration should still be good. And without further ado, let's try to open this up. See if we can do this by hand. No. And that goes a lot easier. So it is not a hand peelable seal. And let's see what we have. This is the bag itself. It's a very big bag for the components. It's not very heavy. And inside we have our tropical fruit and nut mix, 50 grams of that. The brand is Beyond the Beaten Track. Next up, we have the main. So these are exactly like the mains in the British rations. This is the Hunter's Chicken, which is a stew with chicken, potatoes, bacon, and cheese in a barbecue sauce. We have the accessory package, which comes with a wet wipe, 2 packs of sugar, a coffee, and a spork. And next up, we have a fruit flapjack of 100 grams, and I'm guessing this is where a lot of the calories will come from in the ration, because 1337 calories is quite a lot, but there's only 2 snacks in this ration. Some of the other Lithuanian rations have a lot more, so I'm guessing the fruit flapjack and the fruit and nut mix are probably responsible for most of the caloric content of this ration. And finally, we have a isotonic drink powder, cherry flavor of 40 grams, which needs to be mixed with 400 milliliters of cold or hot water, which I'm going to use cold water for it. So it doesn't seem like too much. It seems a little bit Spartan. We have a main, the flapjack, and some nuts, but we don't have any biscuits or any type of bread type food to go with the main. And it also doesn't come with a flameless ration heater, so I'm gonna heat up the Hunter's Chicken in some hot water right now. So while that's heating up, let's open the components. First up, I'm gonna open the accessory pack. It also comes in a sturdy Ziploc bag. We have our 2 sugars, a wet wipe, a cold fresh chewing gum, a package of salt, and a spork, which is relatively sturdy. Also, I'm filming this in 6K, and I'm gonna downsample it to 4K. So if you do notice any quality differences between this and some of my previous videos, please let me know. Now I'll make the drink. And that looks like not a huge amount of coffee, so I'm not going to fill it up with a large amount of water either. That's probably more water than I wanted, but that's how it goes. And let's try the flapjack next. And here's a close-up of the flapjack. And it's quite crumbled up. Next up, I'm going to make the cherry flavored drink. And it instantly smells like chemical cherry. And that's how the powder looks like. Mostly white, a little bit of pinkish hue, and quite a lot of powder as well. And I'll just stir it with the spork. And it has a nice reddish color to it. As a final component, we have tropical fruit and nut mix. And that's also quite a large amount. And the fruit mix comes with bananas, coconut, raisins, peanuts, pineapple, some papaya, So peanuts and some dried fruit, basically. So let's first try the coffee. It looks like regular black coffee. And it tastes like regular freeze-dried coffee. Definitely put way too much water in that. I think if you put like a third of it, it might actually be good. Not super bitter, but it's not the best MRE coffee I've had either. Next up is the cherry drink. It got a little bit foamy, so interesting to see how that will taste. And that's actually very delicious. It's not too sweet. It's quite tart and quite sour, and the cherry flavor is not overly chemical, which is kind of surprising. It doesn't really have a sweet cherry taste, but more of a sour cherry taste. But so far, when it comes to isotonic beverage bases, this is one of the better one. It is much better than the beverage bases that you get in American MREs. It was actually really good. I'll take another sip. One of the interesting things about the beverage base is that also the texture is almost like regular fruit juice. It's not very watery, it has a little bit of thickness to it. So that's a really, really nice drink. So next up, I'll try the flapjack. It broke up into a lot of small pieces, but it should still taste good. Here's a close-up. There's some raisins in there as well. So let's see how that tastes. And the flapjack tasted a little bit stale. It's sweet, not too sweet, but also not great. There's not a lot of raisins in there at all, so it's really just the oatmeal itself. I normally really like flapjacks, but this one definitely would have benefited from having something extra added to it. So something like some nuts or some extra fruit, because now it's a little bit bland. Also a little bit stale, I think. It's not super fresh anymore. Still like good to eat, but it's definitely seen better days. It's also very crumbly. I just picked this up and it's almost disintegrating, but this piece has a little bit more raisin in it, so let's try if that's any better. It adds a little bit of sweetness to it, but it's definitely not my favorite flapjack of all time. And finally, we have the fruit nut mix. It's quite well mixed, so there's quite a lot of different components to it. And let's see how that tastes. Yeah, that tastes really good. Quite sweet. The bananas, the dried bananas, are candied. It's more sweet than anything. If you look at like the peanuts themselves, they're not salted or even roasted, I think. It's really hard to pick up any of the actual nuts, but that's a pretty nice trail mix. Just eating the peanuts by themselves, there's a weird aftertaste that's hard to describe. It's a little bit chemical. I don't think they're rancid per se, but there's a little bit of a bitter aftertaste to them. And I'm guessing the bitter taste comes from the sulfur dioxide used as a preservative on some of the fruits, which is kind of strange because if you have a bite with just the fruits and not the peanuts, you don't really taste it. So yeah, still good, but there's a little bit of a weird aftertaste. And here is the Hunter's chicken. It's definitely warm to the touch and quite interested to see how this looks like, because it's a stew with cheese and barbecue sauce, which is a little bit weird for me to wrap my head around, but let's see. And the moment you open it, it already gives sort of a canned bean type of smell, or it gives off an aroma. So let's put that on the tray. And that's a close-up. It's pretty mushy. There's no large pieces of chicken or potatoes there. They're all pretty small. And there looks to be quite a lot of gravy or stew. There's also some peas. And here it is on the spork. It's quite soupy, so the spork is probably not as good as a spoon. Some of the chicken stew already fell on the tray and the table, but let's try. That tastes quite odd. It is way sweeter than I would have expected it to be. I expected this to be basically just a tomato-based stew, but you can really taste the barbecue sauce in there. It's very sweet. The chicken is almost shredded, so this is almost like shredded chicken in barbecue sauce, rather than what I would sort of understand as being a stew. I mean, the taste is not unpleasant, but it doesn't really strike me as a combination that you would make normally. To me, this tastes like if you smoked a joint and all you had was like some potted meat and barbecue sauce and you sort of mixed it up. There's supposed to be cheese in there, but I don't really see any sort of cheese at all. I'm guessing it's in the sauce itself, but yeah, quite odd. Not unpleasant, but also not my favorite. And although there's a gram and a half of salt in the stew, I'll add a little bit extra because it's really, really sweet. That's slightly better. I definitely needed something. And since we don't get any crackers or something, but we do get the flapjack, I think I'm just gonna try to see if I can combine the two. Combined, it just looks like different shades of brown, but let's see if it's any better. I guess it's slightly better than the main on its own. The flapjack definitely gives some texture to it. I'm not saying that the stew is mushy in itself. If you do get a piece of meat, it is relatively firm, but on the other hand, it's just sweet on sweet. So a little bit strange combination to have so much sweetness for a lunch or a dinner, in my opinion. So yeah, there you have it. I'm gonna finish this now and then come back with my final thoughts. That's all finished, or at least as much as I'm gonna finish now. I'm not a soldier in the field, so I don't need to have 1337 calories per meal. The coffee was okay. The flapjack was also okay. Not as good as commercially available flapjacks, but it is quite large. I'm guessing as a second use, you could also make some porridge out of it if you have some water or milk. The fruit and nut mix was okay as well. A little bit of weird aftertaste, but generally good. And for me, the real highlight of the ration was the isotonic cherry drink, which has a really nice natural cherry flavor to it. A lot of tartness and a good texture. The main dough is edible, but it's just a really odd meal. It really seems like something an 18-year-old would like cook up in his dorm room with some cans that he had available and some condiments in the fridge. The barbecue sauce, super sweet, and the chicken was okay as far as it was there. I guess this is a great ration if you have a sweet tooth, because almost everything in this ration besides the coffee is sweet. Thank you for watching. Next up, I'm gonna continue reviewing some of the Czech rations I have. They have some pretty strange minimal breakfasts, so I'll do that for my next video, I think. But until that time, thank you so much for watching and hope you have a good day.